I'm Brandon. I'm a technology journalist. I've been doing this for quite some time. We're building this community called DevHeads, and I'm really grateful that everybody's involved. Our typical agenda is here, but let's pass it over to you, Mesh, and you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, this is Umesh here, and I've been building embedded software and hardware from past 10 years for IoT projects. Yeah,
Cool.
thank you.
Mike, you want to go?
Yeah, Mike Curran here in the U.S. Do technical consulting work and fractional executive type work for IoT companies and connected products, connected services.
Great. And Navadeep, you want to say hi?
Yep. Hi everyone. I'm an electronic designer from Bangalore.
Cool. So I mentioned it there very briefly at the top, Navadeep. I'm not sure if you heard, but basically, I've been trying to send you some kits. In fact, what is your experience when you need to source electronic components, right? If you're trying to purchase, something to help you prototype, is there a distributor of choice that you have? Do you just run down the street to some, to some shop and see if they have any capacitors or whatever, or a kit that you might need? Do you have horror stories, pleasant surprises? What's your go-to when you're prototyping?
I would like to categorize it to two types, right? One would be prototyping for myself for hobby projects or sorts of, and other while working with the organization or corporation where I have to follow certain standards, I have to follow or I have to purchase components from certain manufacturer only, right? With certain grade of temperature, range, and sorts of, which I would never mind if I'm prototyping for myself or as a hobby project or just a POC for some client or any sorts of like that. So the second part, working with the corporation, that might be straightforward. Like I would always go with the standard preferred supplier, or even if it's within the country, then there is always like a preferred person who could supply these components, and we always look at we always pass through a series of rules and regulations and make sure that these particular BOM, like bill of material guidelines are met about temperature, range, speed, grade. If it's integrated circuit, then the dielectric X7R, if it's for automotive use case and such. But not going much into, because this is standard and template. If interesting part comes when I'm a hobbyist and when I'm developing for myself, right? So in this case, I have done all the things which you mentioned, like running down to a local store, running down the street and searching if they have it, and a lot of times they do not, right? And then probably when I started off, there is a local TV repair shop near my home, and I used to go there making a list of these weird set of values, 1 microfarad, 1.2 microfarad or sorts of, which I've seen on the internet as a reference schematic for some IC555 monostable multivibrator. I want this particular microfarad capacitor to get this frequency, to get this rate of blinking, and then make a list and go to them. They mostly wouldn't have, because they are a repair people, not a sellers or stock, and they don't stock components. Then I would bug them over there, not let me go out of the store, and then they would search in a large stack of old TV PCBs and then find that value and desolder and give it to me, often for free, or I would make that compromise. But otherwise, during my undergrad days, working on college or university projects, it was always there is a local street here in Bangalore. Often, the scenario might be different in India, because local shops are quite popular in certain places, and you get literally all the electronic components, and you can request them to source if they don't have in a very short period of time, and you can get that into your hands pretty soon. Otherwise, while at home, or if I'm not nearby the place where I can get it, then online is a preferred way. There are a bunch of local suppliers as well. These local suppliers will be able to get you component. Might not be at the best price always, like the international suppliers who do bulk deals, but I would get them from local sourcing itself. So I probably told all of these, but if I have to prioritize, generally with the quality and with the standards, like the components which I want. I professionally I can get it from the local suppliers at ease. Otherwise, run down to a local store and get it.
Great. I've got some follow-up questions there, but Umesh, what about you?
For me, yeah, same with Navdeep. I don't have any particular online shop which is my favorite one. Unfortunately, none of them. In Germany, I had this Wartrot Electronic. That is where I used to buy. But in India, I love to be very agile, just the way Navdeep said. If I get a component from the local shop, I know I would get it at the same day. So I don't have to wait even till the evening, right? I probably send somebody or I can drive and quickly pick up. And then if I have very special requirement, which is something like high speed or maybe high quality cables, which is very rare to find in a normal market, because people might keep for the general purpose use of those cables of certain grades to drive certain current or something. So in that case, I always prefer element 14. So element 14, when I have a pleasure of waiting little bit of time, it's not too bad. In past 4 years, India has changed a lot. I mean, Navdeep probably have not seen those days when you have to wait for 2 months, 1 month or something. So Navdeep is quite lucky in that sense. And some shop, I don't even see them exist online right now. So right now, I think 1 week or 2 weeks you get. 2 weeks you get it in metro cities. India is again too big. But if it's a stock from Singapore or Hong Kong, then you will get it pretty quickly from element 14 and all. Otherwise, I would prefer to go with the local vendor. Online, my experience is very bad. This online websites, maybe they have 5 components here, 5 components there, and in India you never have one place you have everything. That's never going to happen. It didn't happen to me, at least. And most of them, they don't have stock as they show on their websites, but you place the order, they accepts the order, and then after 10-15 days they tell you, okay, they didn't had actually in a stock. And then you are never ending waiting. So what I usually, the worst part to be in India is I always trust nobody. I don't trust anybody. I always keep 2 backups. So I order one at one place and the other one is the other place. So one is maybe at my office address, the other one is at my home address. So that's how the backup, I, like you said, like what you're gonna do if it's take too long sometimes. Because if you're working on some ideas, or you have to prototype at certain time frame, you have to finish, you have to run with the backups. So I keep the backup as well. It's pretty orthodox approach, but I still follow that.
So, is there for Element 14, for example? Do they have a warehouse? I'm assuming they've got to have a warehouse or warehouses in at least Bangalore or around Bangalore. What's the deal with the logistics there? You'd think that should solve some of the problem.
Yes. So even at the time of Corona, when I was getting some of the STM chips, I got those chips in 3 days and 4 days delivery from 1114. And I was quite shocked and surprised when everybody's writing on LinkedIn, okay, there's a shortage of this. And then I got to know they have their own stocks as well. I think they have a big inventory there in Bangalore, probably. I don't know. And sometimes
True.
I also use Amazon. By the way, I still use Amazon. Some components, some European, like very beautiful switches or some connectors or something, I sometimes find on Amazon, which I can't find it with the others. So that's also happens sometimes with me. Even it happened to me today. So
Navdeep, did you want to add something?
Yeah, but before that, I'm curious about Amazon. Do you get passives in Amazon, or what type of components do you order? Just modules.
no modules. I'm discrete components. Some
Interesting.
very special, very beautiful, those button, those connectors. It's like a cherry on cake. And those people in a production grade in a companies where beauty doesn't matter, they don't keep, because it's not that much volume. People don't usually that much care, and if they buy, then they probably import. So if I want in a lower volume, then I sometimes, I mean, this happens to be with many times with me, I find them on Amazon and I order. So it's, so I'm what I'm saying is I'm open for everything. I get from anywhere I get. I always keep the backups. That's what I say.
The
I
you
can
know,
agree with that. Yeah.
no, go ahead, Navdeep, please.
Sure. I was just telling I can agree with that because fixing to a certain supplier, right? That supply, that I yet do not know a single supplier who can provide all the components which I've used till now, right? It's always discrete. There are some good local suppliers, ET-Store, electronicscomponent.com, or in each metro city there is a popular street for mechanical components. There is a dedicated street in the city where the whole street there are shops full of who sell electronic components, and there is a street where all the shops are just mechanical components. They just do welding, lathe, and stuff like that. So these streets are always infamous for getting these type of things done. But keep the options open, and importing it from outside is the last option. Right?
Yeah.
All
I'd, I'd imagine if it's going to take 2 months, right?
Yeah.
So
Some of the
let's
import
say,
processes faster. Some of them are faster, but I had some bad stories. Like once I happened to order a component from Samtech, I suppose, and it got shipped from US warehouse through DHL. It directly got assigned to my address in the US and then got shipped. Unlike Element 14 also. In Element 14, they have a local warehouse. They have a warehouse in Whitefield, Bangalore. If you order something, it will first come to the warehouse in India and then jump on from wherever else. For example, the kit Umesh ordered for me the other time, it had first come to Bangalore, then went to Umesh's address, and then Umesh had shipped me back to Bangalore. So that happened. Logistical, that's how it is designed to. Element 14 first orders anything you order into the country's warehouse, and then branch it out to wherever the person wants. But about the Samtech thing which I ordered, they directly shipped it to me, and DHL, it got held in the customs. It does not happen every time, but my bad, it got held up there, and I was imposed sort of 200% import duty also. The component costed some $12 or so, and I had to pay $35, $40 sort of, and I had to drop it. I did not take that. It was a connector, which I wanted for
that sort of
while.
connector I was talking about. Like when you get discrete in Amazon, so I compensate with money, time. So if you get it in, like somebody could have something like some Amazon seller, and then they make a huge profit on just selling a couple of components here and there. Yeah.
Right.
So, Mike, I wonder what your experience is with a team, right? I'm assuming that you've worked with distributed teams. How were you moving them the parts that they needed, especially if they were international?
Yeah, it's interesting to hear about because I never had to, being in the U.S., didn't have to struggle with that much. I had teams most of the teams were in Ireland and Czech Republic. And one thing we did find is, because we were a manufacturer, we were shipping a lot of finished product to both locations. So we had good shipping channels set up, and every Wednesday a shipment's going to go out to Czech Republic, and every Friday a shipment's going to go out to Ireland. So it made it easy. Anytime they were having struggles with components, we could source them, just toss those components in a shipment that was already had kind of everything set up for getting through customs cleanly and things like that. So we were able just to piggyback on the fact that we had this channel from the US into Europe set up. And I didn't have to deal with it in Asia at all. I think probably most likely hearing these stories, it's probably because there was nothing we could do to help, and they were left to fend for themselves, figure out their own kind of resourceful methods. I was curious to ask, in the U.S., there's especially for design engineers and doing prototypes and initial volumes, a lot of us relied heavily on, there's a couple of distributors that are really tailored for that, like Mauser and DigiKey here, and they both have really good international, at least my perception, really good international distribution. I'm curious how you guys are. Do they show up on your list, or is there like minimum order volumes or shipping charges or that are prohibitive, things like that?
Umesh, Navdeep?
So, in my opinion, the problem is not with the volume. You can order maybe 1 or 2 pieces, no problem. But the bureaucracy starts when they ask you to have some import licenses, right? Or maybe sometimes your business has to be registered. So if you're like, if you come out of university and you say, okay, let me build this awesome idea, let me build this prototype for 6 months, unless you register, you have this documentation which you require. And the funny part is, Mike, for every company, it's a different. For Mauser, they might require export number, import number. So for, let's say, Element 14, they might want the GST, so central tax. So it's like a different thing for different supplier, and it's very I mean for businesses it's not a problem, because businesses have those documents anyways to run the business. So right now for me it's not a problem. I would get it in 2 or 3 days, no problem. Everything and anything I want, just like in, so the purchase experience is more like US and Europe only. But if you are individual, or if you're just starting a business or something, then for you it's a whole different life experience.
Yeah. So sorry, I had some issues with the link that I provided. Apologies, everybody. Hey, Joseph, I know you're there. Your camera and your mic's off, but I'd be interested if you had some experience to share with, distributors. How do you get parts, especially if you're going to try to do a prototyping project? Where do you go?
Okay. Basically, I have some local distributors around me in Nigeria here. Though we can't compare them to the global ones you get, but for basic prototypes like using Raspberry Pi, ESP32, and basic module hobbyist kits you get, I do place orders on that. I do place orders on that. But if I'm going to like an advanced design, let's say a design that will require a PCB for me to do, and trying to prototype those kinds, I majorly check first if they do have the parts. Most times the parts that are being available are through parts. So through you rarely see local distributors having SMD parts. So I can do my PCB prototype based on through designs. I can order from them. It also depends on the quantity of the design, but most times prototypes are kind of few. I use within 5 to 10 within a prototype. And recently I'll be venturing into a project about designing of inverter, how to design it into kV inverter. So just a project I want to do. So I'm looking at using the local distributors. I use the local distributors, do my testing, do my orders. But if I'm working for a client, majorly I majorly use Mauser, DigiKey. I do component source in there, or I can tell my PCB fab house to just get end components for me when I provide the bill of material for them. So that's how I majorly do my own stuff.
Sourcing. So Joseph,
Yeah.
when you're working with Mauser or DigiKey, if you're doing international, obviously, what's your experience? How long does it take? Is it more expensive? Is it reliable? What's that like?
When it comes to expense, I would say it depends on the scalability, like amount of components or devices you're getting. You get, if you just want to get, let's say, one Raspberry Pi or one BigBone device, you get, you need to pay a shipping fee and all those costs will be there. So the expense will be kind of larger, you get, compared to when you're getting those components in bulk. Let's say example for a resistor. If you're buying just one piece of resistor from Mauser, to cost about 10 cents, you get. But if you buy like 10, or you buy, like, let's say you buy 20, you can get 20 for about $1, you get. So as 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 the amount of component scales, you get more value in terms of price. And that's why I say majorly for prototype and for low end products, I do use my local distributors. Then for scaling, I do use Mauser. But most times when I'm working with clients, I still go using Mauser, DigiKey, and others. So they're actually perfect. They're actually perfect in terms of prototype, but just there are some trade-offs and some compromise that you still need. So that's it.
This is super interesting, as I think Mike would probably understand this reference, which is, Wall Street versus Main Street, and there's sort of still this Main Street element of doing prototyping in some of these other countries. I don't know about you, Mike. I don't know of a place in Phoenix or any other big city where there's a street where you go anymore, where there's just a bunch of guys who have components laying around.
Yeah, I mean, it was literally very early in my career when we used Radio Shack was actually a place where you went to get electronic components, right?
Not even in business anymore.
Right. Very different, yeah.
Amesh, so if you're working with clients who are international, how does this one of the areas where this recently just happened was Pallav Agarwal asked me if I could buy something for a client of his in the States. How does this impact that sort of dynamic when you're working, with a customer who may be, overseas?
So for me and our solutions, what we export from India, usually I export into the Middle East. Many of these IoT solutions, RF products. In Europe and in US, not so many at the moment. We didn't have that much business out there, but Middle East and a little bit of eastern part of Asia. So we assemble in-house, okay, and then we send it. And because we do all certifications and we do all the testings, and we do have that export licenses with us. So we manage from our company's export, and we do have all this team set up for that. So we do the way probably how Pallav handles is very different, because he might have to send a piece of hardware, which maybe the firmware or the hardware will be tested at the client's end. That's not what we do. We finished, put in casing, it's completely ready. Now it's been tested, certified, put the logo, export grade. Now we put the box into another box and then ship it. So that way we do. And in case if this happens, it happened 2 or 3 times. Especially one customer was in Pakistan, and India Pakistan doesn't have very good relations, so there's a problem all the time. So in that case, then we bought, I bought it in Dubai and then exported to Pakistan. So not from India to Pakistan, but from Dubai
Right.
to Pakistan. So that's how I dealt with. And for Saudi Arabia, Qatar, that's again one of our target market. There I didn't had any problem. We have very robust supply chain there.
So I want to ask, to wrap up this topic, I want to ask Navdeep and Nimesh in particular. So, globalization isn't a new thing, but I think it's just going to continue to increase, right? Where we have distributed teams who are international, there are going to be a lot more people moving forward, even small companies who are in the States or in the West, who are working with teams in India or, Bangladesh or somewhere else, right? How do you get through this problem of importing anything into India? Importing anything into India is just like a nightmare. It's like a 50-50. It's a Hail Mary. You're throwing it up. Like, how do you get around this?
For me, I keep all the certificates. So I have a tax registration, I have then import number and all import export number, everything. And that's why it's been forced you to register and do all those, business activity as a businessman. Uh, for individuals, I think you have to rely a lot on frugal things, very agile you have to be, like the way Navdeep says, go to shop anywhere you possibly could get access to. And even to today itself I do. So day before yesterday it was a state holiday in Maharashtra, and I just wanted one component to be desoldered, and in my home right now it's not allowed to do electronic stuff because there are some kids and then they take the electronic component, which my family restrict me to do electronics anymore at home. So what I did, I went to a repair shop and I gave him some money and did it. So I think that's the best way for if somebody doesn't have a business, they could do that. I did it yesterday because it would have taken 2 hours to travel to my office. So I wanted to save that, 5-10 minutes. So I just get it done around my home. So I think that's the way. Otherwise, you have to start a company, register things, and all those jargon then, come up. Yeah.
How about you, Navdeep?
This has hit me quite hard as while in university as a student also. I mean, I have always till last 1 year I have lived in a net worth of $100 or so. Things are working out in that all my component sourcing would happen in that. And see, I sometimes went to this import stuff, and if I feel that's worth it to pay 50% customs duty or whatever taxes and shipping charges, then I did it 2 or 3 times. Otherwise, it's mostly everything is local.
Wow, that's great. And Joseph, if you're there, if you have any best practices or tips or tricks on what you would recommend for organizations looking to work with somebody in Nigeria, how should people go about making sure they can get you what you need, or you can get others what they need?
Sorry, come again with the question.
Sure. What are the best practices, or what tips do you have if somebody is trying to work with you, or you're trying to work, if somebody's trying to work with a developer or a development team in Nigeria? Are there any ways to ensure that the components, kits, technology get there on time, without an arm and a leg?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Basically, it's just missing one thing I would say is actually communication. You get so the client or company outside and the team here at Nigeria, if there's a clear communication between the two parties, you get that's this is actually the first approach. I'll always recommend a clear communication. Then there's always when doing development, you get so most times or sometimes it depends on the approach the client wants. You get they might say okay, for the components and everything they will actually do it themselves. So just the job of the team is just to do the design and send them the design file, then they will files and they'll take care of the rest. You get if that's the case, then fine. But if the case is they will do the design and ship it back to Nigeria and do the prototyping. So what I'll recommend is a clear communication. Then in terms of the component requirements and others. So if those components are available right here in Nigeria, we can actually do it again. So just get the job done. If not, we'll place an order. We'll place an order. Sorry, we'll place an order from top and global companies like Mauser or any of them, DigiKey and the rest of them. So there's not much issue. So the main thing is just a clear communication here. So the projects I've been working on since, everything have been actually fine. So we just need the clear communication. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for that. All right. Things to keep in mind as we get more and more distributed with our workforces. Bringing back this section, Helpline fellow DevHead, here are some questions that have built up over the last 2 weeks that could use help from community members. I won't go through every single one of them, but there's some NVIDIA, Jetson robot help needed solving a maze, something around an inertial measurement unit, and then Prem Thengil has a lot of questions around RTOS. I know there are several RTOS developers in the DevHeads community, so check out the middleware and OS forum and see if you can give him some help, or her. And I'm not sure actually if Prem is a man or woman. And then also Yusuf is doing some work around Mosquito MQTT broker, working with Linux. So if you check out these different forums, there's some questions, give each other a hand. The next office hours is going to be a week from today, Friday, which is going to focus on, with all the ARM-based processor options out there, does choosing one MCU vendor over another really matter? And I think this is an interesting one. There are so many different SKUs, so many different options, and sometimes it makes your eyes hurt when you're looking at the charts that show the differences between them. Maybe you have one I squared C more or less. Does it really matter if you go with Renesas, ARM, NXP? We'll be talking about that. And then engineering hour, Umesh is getting a break, a well-deserved one, and actually Joseph is taking over for him for the next couple of weeks with a sister platform called, or sister property called ElectroGuide, and this is really for getting started. So if you're going to be trying to learn about electronic components, what they do, and then also get into PCB design fundamentals, Joseph is going to be here to help you out with that. Joseph, do you want to take a second or two to explain what you're going to be going over on the first ElectroGuide this Sunday at 1500 GMT?
Okay. So basically, I'll be teaching on I'll be introducing about introduction to electronics and hardware design. So that's what I'll be teaching on, and we'll just have a subsections. We'll talk about a few things like voltage, currents, talk about resistance, we'll talk about few components, basic electronic components that we do use. So everything that I'll be speaking of will be actually basic for let's say for beginners, and it also help some end users and even professionals to get. So we'll also be looking into applications of circuit designs and all that. So basically this also be looking at in the next engineering hour.
Great. So yeah, just the purpose of this section is, inside the server, we have a lot of advanced topics, like fairly advanced questions going on. For example, Navadeep does a lot of things around, FPGA design, which for somebody starting out is probably just makes their head explode. We've got some fairly sophisticated discussions happening around, using operating systems on, advanced symmetric multiprocessing or asymmetric multiprocessing. If you're not, if you're just getting started, that is just basically a completely foreign language. This ElectroGuide is really going to help those of us who are just getting started, get grounded and then build up to some of that more advanced stuff later. So we've got demos coming out. So getting started with reference designs with Peter Dvorak is going to be launching today. So keep an eye on the YouTube channel. Next week, understanding embedded memory with Christoph. A couple of weeks out, Remy is going to be kicking off an embedded Linux series, which is going to be running for at least a few months. So I'm excited about that. We're going to be diving into Yocto. And then in parallel, Abhishek is going to help us understand more about custom packages and build root. Continuous improvement, get 1% better by next week. If you have any questions or suggestions on that, please use the server suggestion box. And then other than that, we've always got these community resources here. So feel free to take advantage of those. And really appreciate all you guys coming and joining us in the server. It's really gratifying, and I appreciate all you guys being part of it. So bring your grain of sand. Next meeting is a week from today. Like I said, we're going to be talking about the difference between ARM-based MCUs. And if you have any topic requests, feel free to throw it in the general dev chat or DM me. I'm at TechieLou. Anybody have anything that they want to bring up before we sign off this week? Questions, concerns? Cool. All right, guys. Well, appreciate you. Shenzhen Street Market should be fun. All right, nobody. All right, guys. Well, take care. I hope you have a great week. See you in the server.